something happen. Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is still spinning on those ones and twos. So we have a great show for you tonight. We want to remind everybody, if you haven't got a chance to go over to our ROKFIN, ROKFIN, please do so now. Wednesday night, we have the debates, so we'll be streaming over there. You know how YouTube likes to suppress our voices, put us down. Mm-hmm. So please go over to the ROKFIN. If you have $10, $9.99 a month to help us out, to endorse us, please. It is a transparent platform.
You don't have to pay anything though to watch us cover the debates. Yeah. Just so you guys know.
Just have to sign up.
Yeah. Also, a reminder that today's the last day to register to vote in California. Mm-hmm. It is also the last day to register to vote if you want to change your party affiliation. Now, you will hear the mainstream media, the Secretary of State website say you can change your registration the day of, that you can go and register the day of.
You can.
And you can.
You can.
You absolutely can.
So 100%.
But the problem is, Pasta, you're going to get a provisional ballot.
No.
And they don't tell you this.
But let me tell you something. In California, they count the provisional ballots.
No, fam. They count the provisional ballots. They didn't count over 600,000 of them. This is verified by multiple sources, including Greg Palast. And this isn't only a California issue. Provisional ballots have not been counted in numerous studies across the nation.
Yes.
So why risk that? Register today. Today's the last day. It was supposed to be yesterday. The problem is yesterday was President's Day. So they changed it to today. So
by the way, I'm telling you what I'm doing. I'm getting a mail-in, and I'm walking it in. And any of the vote centers, you're allowed to walk them in. If you want to put it in the mail, that's up to you. I don't think it's a good thing.
You can put it in the mail, but I would rather I would rather fill it out and drop it off, which is what I'm going to do. Drop it off myself.
In the vote centers. They have a big box. You can go right in there and
that's the best way to do it. Do not just mail it.
Yes.
I do no.
Yeah.
So in this way, with the vote by mail, you have a trail of a paper trail. And when you use the computer, it's a little bit more difficult to maintain that trail. Yeah. So that's why the Bernie Sanders campaign has been telling people to register vote by mail for a long time. But I am doubling down on that advice because that is definitely something that we need to do.
Yeah.
So
walking in, it's the safe way to do it.
It is.
So let's talk about your friend, fam. This guy is up to here.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Bloomberg. Don't mean to make fun of anybody but their height, but but I just want y'all to know he's shorter than Al Pacino, okay?
So Mini-Me, Bloomberg, is buying this presidential election. Like, he is literally buying this presidential election, and that should disturb all of us, okay? So Bloomberg is eyeing his campaign, and he's pushing his campaign differently. He didn't really care about New Hampshire or Iowa. He's not even doing much in Nevada. What he is focusing on are Super Tuesday states and thereafter. I had a friend tell me that in Florida, he's hearing our Bloomberg ads. And that's the thing, because Bloomberg is spending millions and millions of dollars on these ads, and he is spending millions of dollars specifically on pretty much buying out any sort of space that he can promote his message that Bernie Sanders is, of course, not the guy to unify us. Okay, so he's not concerned with anything but the Super Tuesday states. He's invested $188 million.
Yes.
Just $188 million. That's it on his campaign. He's paying his field organizers about $6,000 a month.
Yeah, by the way, I got to tell you guys, I'm so sorry. This will be my last show. I got hired by Bloomberg. 6 G's a month, guys. I need the money, man. When I get caught up and once Bloomberg drops out, I'll come back. Okay?
So I've been told by sources that a lot of the people he's hiring are doing it for the money, but they're secretly giving the data to other people. The Intercept just released an article recently where by Ida Chavez and our best friend, what's his name?
Russ Grimm?
No, Ryan Grimm.
And sorry. I know it was something R. Grimm.
Well, it's on Bloomberg's education plan, and I started reading that plan and wanted to break it down, but we kind of ran out of time. It is really bad, and I'll touch on his education plan later. But they got that leaked by people in the Bloomberg campaign, which is like these people are like taking the money and kind of working against him. So he can't buy their loyalty. He can buy the staffers as far as like hiring them, but they're actually working against him in a lot of ways. Bloomberg also spent about $10 million on a Super Bowl ad alone.
Saw it. We were sitting there enjoying our food. We had good curry. We had good, just fine cupcakes. And all of a sudden, I almost regurgitated all my food because here comes Bloomberg in the middle of my Super Bowl Sunday fan.
You know who else did that? Who spent $10 million on an ad?
Tom Steyer?
Donald Trump.
Oh, damn. I was close.
So that's where we can see the comparisons between Donald Trump and Bloomberg. They're pretty much two sides of the same coin here. And
good.
Oh,
that's the ad.
Yeah, that's the ad right there. So Jonny is showing, but I want to talk about how the major thing I have an issue with, which is the third thing.
This is such disgustingness. Go ahead.
Bloomberg bought himself into the debate. And this debate will be on tomorrow, Thursday in Nevada. Now,
Wednesday.
Wednesday. I'm sorry, it's getting my days mixed up. We've heard we've heard Bernie Sanders talk about how this isn't fair. How if you're a billionaire, you can go in there and buy your entry to the debate. He talked about Cory Booker, Tulsi Gabbard, Andrew Yang playing by the rules, and they still didn't make it. Now, Tulsi Gabbard is a particular issue I want to pinpoint because Tulsi had been polling consistently, and they purposely left her out of the New Hampshire debate. And not only that, they stopped considering her as an option. So obviously then she couldn't be polling at all when she wasn't even an option. But Bloomberg, of course, because he's a billionaire, was able to buy himself in these debates. And that shouldn't just be something that that people who like Tulsi should be upset about. It should be something we are all upset about, because what it's showing is that the DNC is willing to bend the rules for a billionaire. They always love talking about the rules. Love talking about how we need to follow the rules. The rules are in there for a reason. That Bernie Sanders in 2016, he didn't qualify. You know, they made such a big stink about the rules. But the moment a billionaire comes in, he can just do whatever the hell he wants, and the DNC is fine with it. And I think the rest of us should be morally outraged that this is a thing, because it's showing you just what a sham our election process is, what a sham our entire government is, and how it's a giant oligarchy, and Bloomberg is a racist oligarch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Nita Turner said it best. You want to sit there and argue he's a racist or not? Who cares? His policies.
No, stop and frisk is a racist policy.
Well,
sorry.
Let me just finish my statement. If you want to argue whether it's same thing with Joe Biden. Their policies have hurt people of color. Their policies have directly targeted people of color. So whether you want to argue whether this or that, it doesn't make a difference. Their policies have, and that's what they're signing up to do, is be policy makers. So that in itself disqualifies them. Secondly, they wanted to keep Tulsi down in New Hampshire. They didn't want her on a debate stage, okay? They didn't want her attacking Mike Bloomberg. So they made sure they kept her off that debate stage. And this is the most disgusting thing around the world, because he hasn't even participated in any of the primaries. And he gets to just waltz right on in, because they know more than anything he's going to really hurt Bernie in Florida, California, and New York. Mm-hmm. And those are three areas he can make a serious dent. And once again, it's not just keeping Bernie from winning, it's keeping him below the threshold, so when they get to the convention, he doesn't have enough delegates to get over the top. So he can almost, in actuality, win every single friggin' primary or caucus out there and still not have enough to get him over the top, because all those establishment Democrats, you join together, and they're going to go beat Bernie
that's
Sanders.
Been their plan all along. But I just have to push back and say, if your policies are directly targeting a certain demographic, then those policies are inherently racist. So I am going to go say that is true. It's all about the policies, and he's not only targeting poor people, he's targeting a lot of those poor people who happen to be people of color. So I do think it's fair to say that his policies are racist.
Yeah, I just hate to get into that whole not racist thing, because they're going to say, oh, Bernie Sanders eventually voted for the crime bill. Oh, Bernie Sanders voted for favor when it comes to removing Gaddafi.
But he didn't advocate stop and frisk.
I understand.
Which we're going to talk about in a minute, and how directly that targeted
I
those
hear
people.
you, but I'm just saying when it comes down to the policies, that's the things that really that I look at more than anything.
Right, it is a policy, though, is my point. Yeah. That is a policy. Number 4, he directed ads attack not only against Bernie Sanders, but against his actual supporters, even putting publicly Twitter accounts and the name of people. He kind of blurred them out, but you can tell who some of these people are. So, Jonny, let's just go ahead and play this, because this is disturbing.
This is. And we'll talk about this after.
Yeah. you play the wrong one?
That's the one.
It is vitally important for those of us who hold different views to be able to engage in a civil discourse.
Yes. Okay. So this is the
Shut
ad.
up, poor people. Who are you to complain?
Right. This is
Be
the
quiet,
ad.
poor people.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it translates to. This
How
is
dare
the,
you speak up?
This is it. I mean, this is like what he's saying. Oh, look at these Bernie supporters attacking me. They're not attacking him. They're literally just talking about his policies that have hurt poor people and people of color. And now that has become the conversation. How they're angry. And going on Twitter and saying, look at all this stuff, because Twitter is a medium that a lot of people have access to, and it spreads viral information, and that's just the way it works. And so that's why they're going on there and talking about this. But now they gaslight you and say, oh, now the conversation becomes about these people being really rude online and really mean. But let's just ignore the very, very real nefarious actions that Bloomberg has taken against a lot of poor people. And then you have people like Joanne Reed, like Neera Tanden, like all of these blue check marks, like Jennifer Rubin, defending him, okay, against just to malign Bernie supporters. I mean, really? So we're gonna ignore Joy Reid, the attacks he's pretty much focused on Latino people and Black people, just because Bernie supporters were mean to you and did a money bag sign when it came to him. I mean, we need to stop giving them an inch on this, because the moment you say, oh yeah, well maybe we should, tone it down, is the moment they're like, see, you're right. See, these people, this is how they are. No, that's not what we're discussing here. We're discussing his policies and how they have hurt so many people.
Okay, well, let's talk about this a little bit more, fam, because this kind of ties into that whole thing when we see R.L. Miller with the pledge to sign not to go after people or go after one another. What is the purpose of a primary for?
Right.
I mean, seriously, isn't the purpose of a primary to get in there, really edge out our differences? I don't know what this whole kind of mentality is. Don't attack us. You mean if we point out your policy, is that attacking you?
Yep.
Is that pointing out one's policies is not attacking them. It's ironing out the differences between the candidates in the primary, which is the whole purpose of the primary itself. Yep. So I really get upset with this whole attitude, and a lot of people in the Democratic Party, some of these establishment lackeys or establishment gatekeepers, they keep on pushing this kind of whole ideology that we shouldn't attack anybody. No, it's an establishment trick to try to quiet people down or make them feel ashamed for pointing out simple policy differences in a person's past. Hey, if you did it, we're going to talk about it. All right? Whoever smelt it, dealt it, whatever. If you did something out there, guess what? It's fair game. The people need to know about your past. Which brings us to another point, fam, because Bloomberg, and I'm from New York originally. My mom hated Bloomberg.
He's from Amityville.
Amityville, yeah. My parents hated Bloomberg. They hated De Blasio more too. But the real Bloomberg, a lot of people don't know who he is. And I think you put up a video right here, Johnny. You got the one, the real Bloomberg ad, the one we didn't know. Okay, we needed to know about this guy. Check this one out, because this one is really nice.
Black and Latino males aged, let's say, 16 to 25, don't know how to behave in the workplace.
Zakai told her boss, Michael Bloomberg, she was pregnant.
She thought he would be pleased, and he said to her, kill it.
Johnny, what did you think about them using the same music? I mean, isn't that good? Like, from a production point of view?
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, they kind of took that same music and planted there. Fam, go ahead.
How does it make you feel when he said that Black and Latino people can't behave in the workplace?
Males between 16 and something. How old are you?
25.
All right, so Johnny does not know how to behave in the workplace, says Bloomberg, and we're going to help him out over here, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, if you got something we can do, how we can help Johnny behave in the workplace, says Bloomberg, put it on our Twitter, on our CONVO Couch Twitter. You can hit up Fee or pasta or Johnny Sue ourselves.
So,
and by the way, I just really quick, fam, I just want to send a special shout out to Michael Cruz, who's back. We love our boy. Michael Cruz back in the game. We need you. We love you, brother. Thank you so much. Fam, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, this is like Trump. I mean, he is Trump.
Like Clinton.
No. I mean, yeah, but
Clinton.
no, but it's like all of them. They're all the same to me. They're all the same type of candidate. That's why I don't understand differentiating between Clinton, Bloomberg, and Trump. They're all the same.
Yeah.
They're all rich. They're all elitists. They all have done things to poor people and people of color. They all are. The difference is one decided to put a D next to his name now. He was a Republican before. And then the other one went from a Republican to a Democrat. And then Hillary went from a Republican to a Democrat as well.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. These labels, these party loyalties mean nothing. They mean absolutely nothing. They all hang out. They're all friends. There's no difference between these people. So when people are like, anybody but Trump, we need to get Trump out of the White House.
Yeah.
You want Bloomberg in the White House? To me, personally, this is my personal opinion, Bloomberg is worse than Trump. Why? Because Bloomberg has the Democratic label next to him, and he is putting Trump as if Trump is any different than him, right?
Yeah.
He's saying Trump is evil. Okay, Trump is evil. But that's going to get the neoliberals, the establishment, to feel like, let's say he wins, which he won't, but let's say he wins against Trump, to feel like there was some sort of victory because we got big orange man bad out of the White House. And it's going to pretty much make people complacent again.
Yeah,
it would destroy everything we've been working towards.
Yeah.
So to me, if I wouldn't vote for either of them. But if someone was going to like make me vote for either of them, I would unfortunately have to vote for Donald Trump as a lesser of evils. And I wouldn't, obviously, I'm not going to, but I see a lot of people kind of thinking like that.
No, I think a lot of people will vote for Trump over Bloomberg, over Biden, over Pete Buttigieg. I really do think that. And there's
so
a famous
sad.
picture.
So
I put it on my Twitter, Johnny. I know you're looking for something, that golf picture, but there's a picture of Trump, Bloomberg, Clinton, and Giuliani just hanging out. I mean, it's pretty funny. There it is.
There it is.
I mean, look at this shit. I mean, come on, dude. Same old, same old. I didn't think we would go there today, but yeah, there it is. That's all you need to.
So,
fam, it's a big
They hate each
club,
other, though, fam.
and you ain't in it.
They hate each
They
other.
just pretend to hate each other. So
you guys,
it's a show.
It's a
fucking
show.
circus over there.
It's disgusting.
And it is disgusting. So Pete on Twitter also talks about Bloomberg on the farmers can't work in information technology. And he has a little thing coming up over here.
So Michael Bloomberg basically says, I can teach anyone how to be a farmer. I dig a hole. 2, put a seed in it. 3, put dirt on it. 4, and add water. 5,
Yeah.
up comes the corn. And so let's hear Bloomberg as how he talks about farmers.
And this is why I say he's going after Florida, New York, and California. He's not really running for president. He's running to fucking take away votes from Bernie Sanders.
Anybody, even people in this room, so no offense intended, to be a farmer. It's a process. You dig a hole, you put a seed in, you put dirt on top, add water, up comes the corn. Then we had 300, you could learn that. Then you have 300 years of the Industrial Society. You put the piece of metal on the lathe, you turn the crank in the direction of the arrow, and you can have a job. And we created a lot of jobs. 98% of the world worked in agriculture. Today, it's 2% in the United States. Now comes the information economy. And the information economy is fundamentally different because it's built around replacing people with technology. And the skill sets that you have to learn are how to think and analyze. And that is a whole degree level different. You have to have a different skill set. You have to have a lot more gray matter.
Which when in the conversation I can somewhat see where he's going. But once again, it's like disenfranchising and putting down the people who do the simple things in life that take a lot of time.
Exactly.
It takes a lot to get up in the morning and plant a ton of corn and make sure it's done right and to do it properly without poisoning our food. That's what we need to get back to.
We need to
get
back to that. Yeah.
And it's really a shame because the guy who used to sweep the streets or sweep the docks like my grandfather back in the 60s had a life. Could live a good life, could buy a house, could go away every year, could send his kids to college, could sell that house, could die peacefully and stuff like that. Now, if you sweep the docks okay? Or you sweep the streets, you live on the streets. And it's a shame because this type of mentality in itself really is demeaning of the people we need most in our society to produce those things that we need to survive.
Exactly. And he's pretty much talking down to any person that has manual labor as their job. And we do need to get back to that. And he, from a business perspective, he sounds intelligent and he sounds like the guy that comes into your company and wants to cut costs and wants to, just he talks about creating jobs, but the jobs he's creating aren't going to help anybody but the people at the top. And so I can see why people who are business minded fall prey to his thinking, but what they don't realize is that he's not even speaking to most business people. He's speaking only to a very small percentage of those at the top.
Yeah. And I want to hear more of we have to take care of the people who are on the lower levels of our society, on the workforce, whatnot. Their jobs are just as important, and we should take care of them as well as the people who are involved in the information age. Johnny, by the way, Gloria Jones with a super chat contribution, as it's always appreciated on the couch. She goes, I think Johnny is doing a magnificent job in the workplace. I'd write in his dolphins noise before voting for Bloomberg. There it goes, Gloria Jones. Thank you so much. And she goes over to our
Johnny's
ROKFIN.
dolphin noise. That's hilarious.
Johnny's dolphin for president has got to be one of the things. Guys, if you're not up on our ROKFIN, please do so. We'll be streaming the debate there tomorrow. Fam, on education and being a person who lived in New York for a little while, we went back and was always connected to New York. Bloomberg has always been a school choice type of person.
Right.
Go ahead.
He's been very, very pro charter schools.
Yes.
His whole life. And let's kind of dig into here because he specifically mirrors Trump and Betsy DeVos. Bloomberg has attacked teachers unions viciously and scapegoated educators, spending most of his tenure as mayor fighting against the United Federation of Teachers, or the UFT. And he compared them to the National Rifle Association, or the NRA. If the UFT wants it, it ain't good, he said. He has also expressed contempt for teachers. In 2011, during a speech at MIT, he suggested that if he could have his way, he'd weed out all the bad New York City educators by cutting the number of teachers in half. And he also, like we mentioned before, he was also a very, very pro-charter school guy. Yeah. Now, he let out, like I said, in the Intercept release, his new education plan, and it caps the loan forgiveness after you've been in a loan repayment plan. It caps it at $50,000, which there's no cap right now. So he's actually wanting to implement backwards, as it's already bad. Imagine if Bloomberg gets in there, he's going to make things worse. And he only gives the typical solutions like get more grants, lower interest rate on loans. It's a very, very
yeah. Johnny, do you have the audio of that? You said you had the audio of this one here? Okay. It's not for the school one, it's for the stop and frisk? My bad. I'm sorry. I'm jumping the gun here. Sorry.
The other thing that is one of Bloomberg's major issues right now is what we all know as stop and frisk. Now, stop and frisk is what I meant when I said he was directing and targeting the Latino and the Black communities in America. And stop and frisk was something that Bernie Sanders finally started bringing up. Because it's one thing to attack Bloomberg on being a billionaire, which is, yes, you're running against Trump, you're running against Bloomberg, you're running against Steyer, all these billionaires. But we also have to note the way he has behaved towards minority communities. So according to Slate, they interviewed the lawyer who went against Bloomberg, Darius Charney. And he said, when Bloomberg first entered office in 2002, the NYPD recorded about 92,000 stop and frisk encounters. By 2011, his 10th year in office, which is insane, that number had ballooned to almost $700,000 people. Meanwhile, the crime in the city continued to go down. And then along with that, you see Kelly in his senior leadership in the NYPD was putting out a message that stop and frisk needs to be a primary crime fighting strategy for the officers. So he made that his focus. He made it his focus that this is a way to target the crime in New York. But Pasta, you lived in New York.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I want to talk about this real quick, but stop and frisk
this is the second one. Yeah.
So here's the thing when it comes to I want to go back to when Giuliani was president, was mayor and whatnot, and he took over the role of New York. Now, New York, Manhattan itself was a pretty dirty place. There was a lot of homeless people. There was a section of Manhattan that had a lot of porn vendors and porn stores and whatnot. It wasn't always the cleanest place. So Giuliani was known, and once again, he wanted to increase tourism to New York, and to do so, he had to act with a swift fist. And people would always make the joke, okay, he closed down all the porn stores, he closed down, and he did it in an unjust way, and he took all the homeless people and he kind of moved them out. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people always made that joke. Where did Giuliani take those homeless people? Some people would say he took it to Jersey. And they made a book about it, The Tipping Scale, and how he cleaned up Manhattan. But the process in which he did it was very, very against our civil liberties and against our civil rights. Now enter Bloomberg years later because, okay, what does he want to do to help the tourism? He wants to make sure that nobody carries a weapon on the subways or nobody carries a weapon in Manhattan. So he wants to increase the tourism. But when you do so, when you do stop and frisk and you implement that, you're pretty much saying that any minority that walks there whatsoever has the right to be stopped and frisked. And here's the problem with that. Yeah. Now you search a kid and he's got a joint on him. Now you can arrest him. It opens up the door to arrest these kids or, put them behind bars for whatever reason, you know what I'm saying? And it didn't just target just the weaponry. Now it says any, young minority that wants to walk or have a joint or something like that, they're subject to get arrested in Manhattan. So it opened up the door to a plethora of just nefarious, dirty, racial fucking acts by the police officers because they had the green light to do so. So it was once again Bloomberg's tactic of an iron authoritarian fist of trying to clean up in the name of let's keep it clean, let's let it. So, and a lot of people go along with this because you have a lot of people dependent on business in Manhattan. So they supported Bloomberg when it came to these actions. So it was a disgusting time, and it was a racially motivated law. And he's got you own it, you got to wear it. So it's his. So
we have the Johnny says he has the audio recording, but according to this audio recording that surfaced recently, this shows how Bloomberg thought about the stop and frisk when he was defending it back as early as 2015. He said, you've got to get the guns out of the hands of the people that are getting killed. And the idea was send cops to minority neighborhoods and search people. Why do we do it? He was asked, because that's where the crime is. So he's directly saying that the criminals are the minority communities.
Yes, pretty much.
And of course, those are the ones that are going to be stopped and frisked. And those are the high crime areas. Those are where the cops are, he said. And then, they're going to stop people, of course, there naturally. And of course, the strongest proponent of who gets stopped is going to then be race.
And it's the mentality of a Bloomberg that says, okay, this is where the crimes happen. We're going to go there and fight that crime rather than say, okay, Bernie Sanders, why is there so much crime? Maybe it's the poverty level. Maybe it's the income inequality.
Right.
So you know how we're going to stop that crime? We're going to give jobs. We're going to give education. We're going to give money. We're going to give infrastructure. That's going to stop the crime. And that is the real way you stop crime. Poverty leads to crime. You take away the poverty and you lessen the poverty, you lessen the crime. Plain and simple. It's the only way to really attack it.
Okay, so let's hear the...
95% of the murderers, and murder victims fit one MO. You can just take the description, Xerox it, and pass it out to all the cops. They are male, minorities, 15 to 25. That's true in New York, it's true in virtually every city. It's one of the unintended consequences is people say, oh my God, you are arresting kids for marijuana that are all minorities. Yes, that's true. Why? Because we put all the cops in the minority neighborhoods. Yes, that's true. Why do we do it? Because that's where all the crime is.
Well,
yeah, that's the kind of POS he is. I mean, there's just no other way of putting it. He doesn't care. As long as he has this power where he feels like, okay, this is what we're going to do. That's how we're going to do it. I don't care how many innocent people have now records. And this is why it's so important to make marijuana and like some lower drug crimes to completely get rid of those, expunge those records and make marijuana illegal on a federal level. That way you aren't you eliminate all the black and brown people that are in jail for selling it to, of course, many white people who have now made it a wealthy business, and they're fine. But then you have the poor communities in jail that are still serving time for literally having marijuana. I mean, this is just disgusting, and Bernie Sanders is actually going to do the opposite of that. And the only other candidate, of course, that's really focused in on that is Tulsi Gabbard, who is focused on completely making this so legal on the federal level. And it goes, no more jails and incarcerations, just rehabilitation and just, decriminalizing everything. So.
Yeah. I mean, once again, you put education, you put money into these neighborhoods, there'll be less crime. Yeah. Simple. Income inequality is the biggest problem, stuff like that. No. And as far as I'm concerned, the next crime that should be committed is eating the rich. And,
well,
I'm talking about the uber rich, so don't worry if you got a few bucks, you're okay. But if you're Jeff Bezos, you'll be my
Bloomberg,
breakfast.
You're definitely going to be
Bezos
generous.
breakfast.
So another problem that Bloomberg has run into
Yep.
that is probably one of his biggest problems, I would say top 3 for sure, is Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders' monumental support by the working class, because the working class sees Bloomberg as this evil monopoly guy with the monocle and the hat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I see him. So Sanders is a front runner. And as much as people want to argue, he just had 2 giant rallies, 2 in one day, one in Richmond, California. And then the other one was in Tacoma, Washington. Tacoma, Washington itself, state, was a heavily, heavily huge Bernie state. So the first picture Johnny showed was in Richmond, and had about over 10,000 people. The second one is in Tacoma, which from our friends in Washington, every seat was filled. It was actually more than 17,000 according to them.
Yeah.
According to the press mail I got, it was at over 17,000, but they were saying there's people in the outside that couldn't even get in. And I mean, just look at that. Nobody else has these rallies, of course. And so Sanders has taken it upon himself in the campaign, and his surrogates have taken it upon themselves to go after Bloomberg. For one, Sean King has attacked him for years because Sean King is from the area. And David Serrata is another one that has been going after him. But Bernie Sanders posted a picture of Bloomberg and Trump hanging out. And that is something that, to me, is kind of bold for Bernie, because he hasn't really done that enough, I feel. And this is the kind of thing we like, because Bloomberg, of course, went and talked about Bernie's new bro is Donald Trump, and saying that Bernie and Donald Trump are together, which is ridiculous. And then Bernie, of course, goes and posts a picture of Donald Trump and Mini-Me hanging out, playing golf, the usual business sport.
I still like the one with Giuliani and Clinton.
Yeah.
I wish he would go that savage and stuff like that. Bernie ain't there yet.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, join the Trump bashing team. But I like the one with Clinton on it.
And then David Serrata, of course, said after the financial crisis, Mike Bloomberg defended Wall Street execs and blamed the crisis on poor people. Quote, it was not the banks that created the mortgage crisis, he said, according to thinkprogress.org. Quote, we always tend to blame the wrong people. We blame the banks. Oh, we blame the wrong people. So David Serrata is another surrogate that's been pretty much going after Bloomberg. And this is exactly what the Bernie campaign needs to be doing, because Bloomberg is, to me, one of his top 2 biggest rivals, especially right now, because he is somehow getting the numbers in African-American community. He's going after them. And in places like Florida and the South, he is spending a lot of money on ads. So the people who aren't informed can hear him, and he sounds presidential, and they don't know anything about it. They're like, oh, this guy's attacking Trump. Oh, this guy is a Democrat.
Yeah.
Okay. And unfortunately, we have to fight against that misinformation. The mainstream media is, of course, empowering him. He got himself into the debates. So Bernie Sanders and his team are doing the right thing by directly going after Mike Bloomberg.
And let me say this much, too. It really makes a difference when you have that money. Tom Steyer, we talked to the lady in Hart's location. She voted for Tom Steyer. Mm-hmm. Why? She doesn't have internet where she's at. She doesn't even have a TV, right? She has radio. And radio ad after radio ad after radio ad had Tom Steyer in it. So it persuaded her to vote for Tom Steyer because she liked his story. I even talked to the lady. She liked Tulsi. She liked Yang, but she went with Steyer. Why? Because he had that money and that radio ads to push him over the top. And that's something that's really disgusting when you get guys like Tom Steyer and Bloomberg, who just can come in there and throw a ton of money at it and really persuade the people who are not so much inside our echo chamber or who are not inside the political bubble. They just hear something over and over and over again, and it really takes place. So,
and I just want to point out to Bernie Sanders' direct speech against Bloomberg, which prompted Bloomberg to add against Bernie Sanders. But the difference is Bernie Sanders is simply saying who Bloomberg is. And he said in this quote, and we can play the video, Johnny, the simple truth is that Mayor Bloomberg, with all his money, will not create the kind of excitement and energy we need to defeat Donald Trump. And that is true. Bloomberg, of course, is going to push people to actually vote for Donald Trump. So let's play this.
And let me also say a word about the current campaign and say to you that regardless of how much money a multi-billionaire candidate is willing to spend on his election, we will not create the energy and excitement we need to defeat Donald Trump if that candidate pursued, advocated for, and enacted racist policies like stop and frisk, which cause communities of color in his city to live in fear. We will not defeat Donald Trump with a candidate who in 2015 stated, and I quote, I, for example, am not in favor, have never been in favor of raising the minimum wage. We will not defeat Donald Trump with a candidate who opposed modest proposals during Barack Obama's presidency to raise taxes on the wealthy while advocating for cuts to Medicare and Social Security. We will not defeat Donald Trump with a candidate who, instead of holding the crooks on Wall Street accountable, blamed the end of racist policies such as redlining for the financial crisis. The simple truth is that Mayor Bloomberg, with all his money, will not create the kind of excitement and energy we need to have the voter turnout we must have to defeat Donald Trump.
Okay, so Bernie Sanders, of course, mentioned stop and frisk, which is something that, yeah, I'm glad he did. And then he mentioned, of course, Bloomberg's money and how he is buying everything and buying the elections. And then he also mentioned how Bloomberg will not defeat Donald Trump. And he's right. Not only will Bloomberg lose to Donald Trump, Bloomberg will make Trump win in a landslide. I am telling you right now. And what Pasta said is right. What they are doing is they are trying to get as many delegates in different states so these people can combine, go to the contested convention, and of course overtake Sanders that way, which is why we have been on it as far as election integrity and election fraud in the state, because California has 394 delegates up for grabs. Texas has over 200 up for grabs. Together, all Super Tuesday, there's like 1,000 delegates, and pretty much that marks the end of the primary. I mean, so we are really, really, really at a moment where we need to fight tooth and nail for every single delegate, and everything that you guys put out there, everything that you guys say, every protest, every tweet, every video, all of these things matter. And, you know, don't let people tell you that you need to be positive. And this isn't being negative. It's being realistic. Yeah. I love it when I see Bernie at his rallies. And I've been lucky to be able to go to so many of them and see the energy. And I believe that Bernie can win. I believe he has the support of the majority of this country. But unfortunately, that's not where my focus is right now, because my focus is on making sure that all those millions of people get their vote counted. And if they don't get their vote counted, as we saw in Iowa, what difference does it make when he and Buttigieg are coming out with the same number of delegates? It doesn't. And so unfortunately, we some of us have to look at also how we get these votes counted and what we can do to make sure that we have a fair shake at this process.
Yeah, and some people will be getting calls from me today. We'll talk a little bit more about that. What Fiorella said, just ignoring this stuff. It's going to be a shit show here in LA. It's going to be a shit show. And I'm sick and tired of hearing people defending Dean Logan and his whole, he led a disinformation, a misinformation, whatever you freaking call it, campaign. And we have him busted. Okay. He's sitting there saying you can change that day. All right. I don't want to get into the LA thing, but let me just read some Super Chat contributions. We'll get into it. But really quick, first, Johnny, also what you said, Donald Trump will destroy Bloomberg. He will. Look at this little statement right over here. Minnie is illegally buying the Democrat nomination. They are taking it away from Bernie. Again, Mini Mike, major party nominations are not for sale. Good luck in the debate tomorrow night. And remember, no standing on boxes. He's going to destroy this guy left and right, okay? Elijah Freeman, thank you for the super chat contribution. As it is always appreciated on the couch. Miss you guys. Where can I find Real Mike ad? Chloe Jones, thank you for the super chat contribution. Is always appreciated on the couch. W, all this Bloomberg nonsense. Are we going to save Savage Burnmaster 1987 at the... Are we going to see Savage Burnmaster 1987 at debate tomorrow? Your streams are the only way I can bear these debates. I know, because we have good fun signs, all this other shit. And thank you for the super chat contribution from Oz LaFay from Washington. Thank you, Oz. We love you, the land of Oz. If you haven't checked them out, go check them out. And all our Washington Bernie crats up there. We love them. We love you. Tacoma, the land of Oz, loves the CONVO couch. Washington raises the roof at the Dome for Bernie.
That was amazing.
So we also have your friend, fam, Elizabeth Warren, and this is really getting ridiculous right now. And I should have went and got it, but I didn't want to put it up there and cause more problem. But Bernie fans and Trump and Elizabeth fans,
I saw some
with the hands together.
Progressive California delegate post a picture with the Bernie and the Liz fans. No, dude, that's not gonna happen. Can we stop pushing that idiocy? At this point, Elizabeth Warren is taking votes from Bernie because she needs to, I don't want to call her to drop out, but I mean, come on, I don't want to call anybody to drop out, but if somebody's taking votes, it is Warren, and I mean Biden at this point as well. But let's just see what Elizabeth Warren said, because there's a couple of things that Elizabeth Warren could have done to kind of be like, okay, I'm not gonna double down on the attacks against Bernie and Bernie supporters. Instead, though, she has tripled down on these attacks and has actually agreed with the likes of Buttigieg and Bloomberg when it comes to Bernie and his supporters. So, Ali Vitali said, asked about online attacks from Sanders supporters and if he has done enough to condemn them. Warren tells me Sanders, quote, has a lot of questions to answer here, and that, quote, that is not how we build an inclusive Dem party and not how we beat Trump. We do not build on a foundation of hate. Okay.
Now, this is the culinary thing, right?
Yes, this is under the whole culinary thing. Now, a lot of people are hesitant to speak ill against unions, and I'm a union supporter. But again, as I've said, and we all know here, some unions at the leadership level act corrupt and are, behave in a very malicious way, and there is corruption in that. Not all the unions, okay,
it's like
but
NGOs.
Some of them.
Some are good, some are bad,
and it's the reason they become like this is because of the system pretty much forces them to kind of have this corporate mindset, and that's what we've seen from a lot of unions. So it is fair to criticize the way some of these unions have gone after Bernie Sanders, when if you're a union member, Bernie Sanders is going to do so much for you. I mean, he is really, really focused on labor. He is really, really focused on making sure that unions grow in this country. And that is what this whole culinary situation is about. But let's go ahead, Johnny, and play the video that we have of
Elizabeth Warren in the grocery store. She should have been by the beer. We can buy the 6-packs.
Someone who's actually come under that attack before, back in Iowa, back in January. Do you feel like he's done enough to condemn the culture online that stems from his movement?
I've said before that we are all responsible for what our supporters do. And I think Bernie has a lot of questions to answer here.
Do you feel, and you...
Okay, can we say something? You're not always responsible for what all your supporters do. You can condemn them and say stuff, but individual people who support you and stuff, it's like you didn't go and tell them to do that. So how are you responsible for that? I mean, it's just dumb.
I mean, it's like if we were responsible for somebody that watches the CONVO couch for saying something like, you can condemn and say, hey, we don't agree with these vicious attacks against blah, 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 which Bernie Sanders has done. But let's turn it around. Has Elizabeth Warren condemned some of the vitriol her supporters have any of the other candidates who call Susan Sarandon the C word, who call, they just literally attack us. You dismiss the women that vote for Bernie. They completely, it's gaslighting. It is, stop paying mind to it. They are just full of it. Elizabeth Warren has cemented herself far, far away from Bernie's campaign, and anybody at this point advocating for her to be involved in Bernie's campaign is really advocating for the establishment to be involved in Bernie's campaign. And they already are, some of them.
That's right.
So we really got a clean house. Phase 1 is to get, Bernie elected. If you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, phase 2 is to make sure that those people that go into his administration are actually the right people and not the corrupt people that have been trying to claw their way in to his campaign.
I didn't hear Elizabeth Warren say shit when that woman said that Bernie Sanders makes my hair stand up and makes my skin crawl. That was a Warren supporter, right? So he said if you're voting for Bernie Sanders over Warren right now, you're just anti-woman and all that shit. I didn't hear Elizabeth speaking up over that, then. So it's kind of, I'm just so done with this woman, really, to tell you the truth. And I'm just waiting for her to drop out and stuff. And to be honest with you, I don't think a lot of the supporters that are left with her and remain with her are really going to Bernie Sanders.
No,
anyways.
I think that I do think some of them will, but I think some of them won't. But a lot of them have Amy Klobuchar and have I swear some of them would even rather go to the Tulsi Gabbard because she's a woman. Well, it's just crazy.
At this point, though, I think that Elizabeth Warren's better than Amy Klobuchar on foreign policy, maybe.
Yeah, well, Amy. Well, let's look at. Well, okay. I don't think so, but
well, watch this
it's
here.
Pretty bad.
This is a shameless plug. Check this out, guys. I had to put this up. Thank you for following my Twitter, but this is brutal. Yeah, and as much as I appreciate Amy Klobuchar's honesty, and I really, really do, this is the reason why she can't be commander-in-chief. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Johnny there.
What's that?
What do you know about the Mexican president?
Okay, well, what I will tell you is that I will visit Mexico in the first 100 years. 100 days.
100 days.
I will visit there.
Are running for president. Yes. You would like to be the Democratic candidate. Yes. What do you know about the Mexican president now?
Well, I know that he is elected in the last few years. I don't know him personally. I've met with the ambassador, and I was actually supportive of the trade agreement. So I worked with the embassy on that. They came to meet with me.
And I ask because it's so important, especially Nevada, California, Arizona, Texas. This is our neighbor to the south. Yeah. Do you know anything about him? Specifically his politics, what he's doing, since this would be the country you would share a border with? Anything you can tell me about him?
I know that they are neighbors, and regardless of who the leader is, that it is someone that I will work with.
Do you? I'm sorry to ask this, but do you know who he is? Do you know his name?
Yeah. I know that he is the Mexican president.
But can you tell me his name?
No. So.
Don't you think it would be important, if you're running for president, to know who the president of Mexico, the country to the south of the United States, is?
Yes.
Because it affects so many Americans. Mexican Americans are the largest Hispanic, the largest number of Hispanics in the U.S. are Mexican Americans.
Of course it is, yes.
Is there anything specifically you can tell me that you do know about Andrés Manuel López Obrador or what he's doing in Mexico that has a direct effect on all of our border communities?
Well, what I do know is that we have had issues, of course, with asylum and people coming up. I actually visited Mexico under the previous president, and went there and led a delegation there to work on human trafficking, and I met with the Attorney General at the time, and we had a very positive meeting. So I didn't meet with the president, I met with the Attorney General.
Okay.
And then I also, if I could finish, and I also have been very supportive of the USMCA trade agreement. I've also been very supportive of trying to work on the asylum cases and the like. So.
We have.
Well, at least you didn't say USDA trade agreement, Johnny, right? So, I mean, but once again, and really quickly, fam, I know you guys probably don't disagree with me on this. I've always thought that she's been an honest person. I just thought her policies were all over the place, and I thought she was terrible in foreign policy. Even when we got to meet her that day in Long Beach when she was at the questionnaire, she was walking out, and I was like, Amy, I'm so sorry that the Minnesota lost to Iowa, and she stopped and she looked, and she's like, I know, my Golden Gophers were doing so good and stuff. You know, the lady in Hart's location, when I asked her, she said, she appreciated her honesty, and more or less she really appreciated the way she defended herself.
Yeah. I mean,
the debates.
She comes off as definitely more Midwestern, more like hi, like that kind, like a wine mom, honestly, to me. But it's just it's not enough, obviously, to be like that, right? Even if you're likable, to really have zero clue as to who AMLO is at this point. I mean, come on. I get it if you're not really involved in politics, but if you're running for president, come on.
I mean, you don't know about AMLO.
She didn't even know about the drug cartel situation and with all of that. What Buttigieg spoke about.
This is our neighboring country here. If you don't know that, AMLO was the first president to break the two-chain establishment. He was like a non-establishment candidate. In over 100 years, one of two parties had held office.
PRI and the PAN.
Yes, and he broke it. He broke it. He wants to ban fracking. He also harbored Evo Morales. He's fighting with the IMF. There are so many things that he's trying to do that really coincide with what we do in the States, especially on the southern border.
Pasta for president.
Unacceptable. You know what? I'm not an expert in AMLO. At least I started looking into it back in the days because it's important.
It's just ridiculous.
It's important because it really affects what we do. And AMLO has become, he came under a microscope, about when the IMF was like going to try to, how is he going to fight the IMF? And this guy seems to be jockeying for a position just to wait for, AMLO knows what's going on in this election more than most people right now because, even though the USMCA deal was signed, thank you very much, there's still a lot more to be dealt with when it comes to how, Mexico's going to make these decisions when it comes to the caravans coming through and all. I mean, she should have known this, and this was the fact that she didn't even know his name. I know he's the Mexican president. I heard he likes elote. What is she going to say? You know what I'm saying? Come on. Give me something. Dudas Priest, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. As always, appreciated the couch. Missed most of the show. We'll be backtracking to see what I missed. Check out John Oliver's take on Medicare for All. It's definitely worth the view. John Oliver, I didn't even know he was still around doing stuff.
Yeah, so her honesty on her pragmatism, I mean, I can see that. But everything else, I mean...
Yeah,
totally, Johnny.
I haven't had time to do enough research, because, I keep hearing about the police state thing.
Yeah.
The research I did do was on Open Secrets to see where her money was coming from. Do you guys know what most of her money is coming from?
No, what do you got?
Large donors. It's coming from large donors. So Bernie and Tulsi are the only candidates that have the biggest amount coming from small donors.
Yeah.
Small donors.
Yeah, but I remember when I looked at it a long time ago, I didn't see a lot of military money there.
No, but large donors, just like wealthy people.
Yeah, I understand too, but
but
also
that matters. I mean, Bernie Sanders doesn't have a single billionaire in his FEC.
That is true.
So.
There's a lot of people in the Midwest that really want to see her come through. So. I mean, I looked at that Open Secrets when she first started running too as well. So, anything else, Johnny? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there were a few Mike Bloomberg things I wanted to show. I mean, here's Cornel West speaking before getting arrested in Harlem at an Occupy Wall Street affiliated protest against Stop and Frisk in October 2011.
Yeah.
I was not aware that Stop and Frisk happened in 2011. I didn't know. I thought when you guys were the media was talking about Stop and Frisk, I'm like, oh, that must have been in the 90s or 80s or something. No, it was in fucking 2011. Are you serious?
It was after
that
2000.
was 9 years ago.
Yes.
That was 9 years ago. I had no idea. I was in middle school.
To our brothers and sisters in the police department. We know you working class too. We know you're working class too. We know you struggling for wages too. We know you're struggling for wages too. You struggling for benefits too. You're struggling for benefits too. In the face of the corporate greed at the top. In the face of the corporate greed at the top. We also know we got to bear witness. We also know we got to bear witness. What we think is right. What we think is right. What we think is just. What we think is just. What we think is moral. What we think is moral. You got to take us to jail. Get ready to take us to jail. So you got to take us to jail. Get ready to take us to jail. Yes. Have a word to our brothers and sisters.
So Cornel West, of course, is an ardent. He really does not like Bloomberg.
Bull Moose Note with a great post
always
on
great
there.
Instagram. And by the way, that's called the People's Mic for those of you who don't understand that. and they do that, stem from Wall Street protest, Occupy Wall Street, and somebody would say something, and the whole crowd would repeat it, and they would repeat the process, so they really get the message out there. So
I like that. Okay, and then a couple other things was Not All Heroes Wear Capes from Fierce Progressive. He's talking at the Virginia Dems. I ain't no idea this happened. He protects racist systems.
Yeah, that got like 1 million. How many views did that got, Johnny? You got millions, right?
This one's only got 300 on Fierce Progressive, but
it's somewhere Fierce Progressive. You copy. So, yeah, somebody else had like 1.5 million views on that one.
Hey, Mike, say stop and frisk. Racist piece of shit, Mike.
Redfish Stream, which is an affiliate of RT, I think. They caught this. They caught this journalist.
Hey, Mike, say stop and frisk. Racist piece of shit, Mike.
Pause. I need you to do some shit like that.
Well, I know.
Well,
I don't want to do
he
that.
tried, and look what almost happened to him.
God, Jesus Christ! I got grabbed by a friggin' security guard in New Hampshire and stuff. But yeah, I mean.
And then the last thing is Mike Bloomberg is considering picking Hillary Clinton as his running mate in 2020. Democratic race to help take on Trump.
Yeah.
Let him. If we know Hillary does anything, anything she touches just turns into rot. I mean, she's just toxic at this point. The moment he gets Hillary Clinton on his side, people are gonna be like, "Oop, let's run away." I mean, Hillary lost to Donald Trump, so by all means, Mike, go pick her as your VP and see how bad you lose this election. I think at this point that's actually a benefit to the Bernie Sanders campaign and to the movement. So.
Johnny, if you go to Taylor Hudak's Twitter real quick, this is something really quick. It's at the top. She has it pinned.
Yes.
And this is something, fam, I wanted to talk to you about as well, because, Max Blumenthal talked about this situation that Bloomberg went through. You're going to have to speak for stop and frisk. It should be at the top of her page. Bernie Sanders is going to have an answer the more they approach him about Julian Assange. And I think this is really going to heat up, and Bernie Sanders is going to have to come out with something when it happens, because as we get closer to the extradition trial, where he might have to come to the States, and if he comes to the States, it's all over. A lot of people say, especially the Action for Assange people, he's going to need an answer. Here's Taylor Hudak with a quick video with Max Blumenthal. Check it out.
Law in Queens, we just wrapped up a Free Julian Assange event, which was held by the Courage Foundation, and I'm joined right now by the Gray Zone editor, Max Blumenthal. Max, how are you doing?
Good.
I know it was a long day talking about Julian Assange and issues related to the free press. One point that you brought up that I thought was very important was putting pressure on the candidates to speak out about Julian Assange. We know that the Sanders campaign has yet to issue a statement about Julian Assange. What do you think they need to do, and what do supporters need to do to ensure that he does speak out on this issue?
Well, we have to make it clear that this is an issue that is actually a winning issue, that there's a critical mass in support, not just of Julian Assange as an individual, but as on the principle of having a journalist jailed because they have views that are unpopular among the intelligence services and the elite. And there are many who will say, the DNC is going to freak out if you express any iota of solidarity with the person who published the internal emails of the DNC that embarrassed them so much. And yeah, they probably will freak out, but the fact is they're already freaking out about Bernie Sanders' candidacy. They're already against him, and Bernie Sanders is already running not just for president, but for the next target of a deep state coup, which will be much more ferocious than the one that targeted Donald Trump. So he has to understand what the stakes currently are and defend Assange on the principle of international law, on the principle of free speech, on the principle of press freedom, and also on the principle of U.S. law around extradition. It would be extremely demoralizing for Bernie Sanders supporters if Assange were extradited and hypothetically Bernie Sanders were then elected and came into office while this trial was taking place in the Eastern District Court in Virginia. What would Bernie do? So he needs to put the brakes on now before such a scenario unfolds under his watch.
In addition to that, many...
He further goes on in the thing to say that, like just like Bloomberg, like they got him in a stop and frisk, they're going to do the same thing to Bernie Sanders. And actually, we are posting a video on YouTube. It's coming up a premiere in a couple hours, about an hour and a half, from Dak Rolu, who talks about he was the one who questioned Bernie Sanders in the line. It was kind of catching Bernie off guard. It was in the middle of him shaking hands. But that is something I think that's going to constantly happen, fam. And it's something that I hope a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters start pushing Bernie Sanders to speak out against. So it's just one of those things we have to.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. A lot of, not a lot, but a significant amount of Bernie supporters have said, well, he can't focus on that right now because, he's focused on his campaign and blah, blah, blah. And he doesn't want to upset the DNC because, the DNC, like, he's so close to winning and they're going to say mean things about him. They're going to try. They already are. They have never once stopped.
Yeah.
This whole idea that we need to appeal to centrists and we need to make them happy is not the way to go because they're still talking shit. They're still going to do whatever it takes to malign Bernie Sanders. They have not stopped not once this whole time. And all Bernie Sanders has done is taken the higher road. Yeah. That's what he does every single time. So for him to say something in support of Julian Assange, I believe is important. I believe he needs to do that. I believe that it's not going to hurt him. I believe it's going to help him. Yeah. It's going to get more independence and people who are really, really huge advocates of, civil liberties and free speech. And if you're going to speak out, in favor of Glenn Greenwald, if you're going to speak out in favor of of free speech, then you have to include Julian Assange. You have to include whistleblowers. And like Max said, the focus was because he was telling the people the corruption that the DNC was pretty much just running rampant with. And the only reason that they attacked him was because of that. They wouldn't have cared if he was talking flowers about them, but he pretty much exposed them for the liars that they are.
That's what made the left not speak out and assist for Julian Assange. I still believe there's people within the military, high up in the military ranks, that are pissed off at him for taking Chelsea Manning's video and exposing their war crimes of them gunning down journalists in the streets.
Right.
Just disgusting. And everybody should have to watch that helicopter footage because there was also a little boy that was in one of those cars that was shot up and was just taken to a local nearby wherever. It wasn't even a hospital. We don't even know if that boy survived or whatnot. But a little boy sitting in a van got shot up, and it was disgusting. So, and we see ourselves as journalists and commentators, and everything we're reporting right now on it comes to the LA County, elections and stuff. It makes me scared to think that anybody can just tell us to shut the hell up and silence us and throw us in jail for telling the truth. Because if they shut you up for this now, what can they shut you up for in the future? It's huge, and it is something that we hope. And go ahead and check out that Dak Rolu interview we put up. It's on ROKFIN now. You can wait for it to come out on YouTube. But he talks about Mike Gravel and said that Mike Gravel even has confidence that Bernie would do the right thing.
I do
for
too.
Julian Assange. I agree with that too as well. But we can only hope. Once again, I wish he would speak out now on it.
All right,
Johnny, anything else?
I just think it's a turning point tomorrow at the debate for Bernie.
Yep.
Either he's
Bernie versus Bloom.
We do see 1987 Bernie.
Yeah.
And he calls him out, and he wins Super Tuesday.
Yep.
Or I think that advertising money is gonna actually give Bloomberg a big bump. So we'll see what happens, and then
Who do you think is Bernie's biggest adversary right now? Do you think
on the stage?
No. Yeah.
On the stage, Steyer?
I don't think
Steyer
Bloomberg
made the stage.
I think Bloomberg is Bernie's biggest adversary at this point in general in the election.
I'm assuming that Steyer's going to drop out soon and endorse Bernie. I'm hoping that happens.
I don't know. He went after him. You saw how he attacked him.
He did. And so did Bloomberg.
He definitely got off my list after that.
Yeah.
My list is very small at this point.
Dak has done some research on Mr. Tom Steyer and said there's some connections to Bethesda there. I want to look into it a little bit more because if that is the case, he's persona non grata.
He's persona non grata for me now for going after Bernie.
That's it. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember tomorrow that we'll be over here on ROKFIN doing the debate. Fiorella will be heading out to Nevada soon to get our boots on the ground to give you updates of what's going on in these caucuses. We want invite you to join us all day Saturday as we cover these caucuses here. It's going to be on ROKFIN, as always. So get onto our ROKFIN, sign up. You don't have to pay to play, but if you got a few extra bucks and you can help us out with a $9.90 endorsement, please do so. And you can jump in on the benefits of ROKFIN by getting into Ethereum and buying some Ray token. It is a cryptocurrency-based platform. We don't want to talk about that so much, but it has blockchain technology, and it is really awesome, and it is a transparent monetary system. So was that it, Johnny?
Yeah, just Golly G. Willikers gave us a super chat. You're both great. Hey.
Thank you.
I didn't see that.
Golly G. Willikers.
Golly G. Willikers. Thank you for the super chat contribution, as it is always appreciated on the couch.
Pasta's sick. Pasta has a coronavirus.
I do, but I only drink Modelo. So for Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella,
Johnny Sue on the ones and twos.
Tina and I will be at the
Nevada caucus
talking to people. At the debate tomorrow in Vegas, and we're going to be interviewing people. So please watch us tomorrow.
Yes.
Here.
CONVO out.
CONVO Couch. Bye.
Peace.